If you thought you'd seen every twist reality TV could throw at you, buckle up, because Love and Hip Hop is about to flip the table in a way fans never saw coming. Cameras were rolling, secrets were simmering, and what started as a routine production meeting exploded into a full-blown meltdown that insiders are already calling the most shocking shakeup in franchise history. Whispers turned into warnings, warnings turned into accusations, and by the end of the night, nothing, and no one, felt safe. According to multiple sources close to production, the chaos ignited when executive powerhouse Mona Scott Young walked into the room with a look that said, "This season changes everything." Fans are shocked because moments later, names that defined the show for over a decade were suddenly on the chopping block. Emotions ran high as contracts, loyalty, and legacy collided in a way that left the cast stunned, and the crew scrambling. At the center of the storm stood Yandy Smith Harris, who insiders say felt blindsided by what she described as a betrayal from the top. Voices were raised, chairs scraped the floor, and when Yandy allegedly questioned whether respect still mattered in the franchise, the room fell into a tense silence that felt louder than any scream. The family was left divided, and that was only the beginning. Across the room, Rashida reportedly clutched her phone, fighting back tears as rumors swirled about how this shakeup could ripple through her marriage, her business, and her carefully rebuilt trust. Beside her, Kirk Frost looked calm, but witnesses swear his jaw tightened when certain past mistakes were dragged back into the spotlight, threatening to reopen wounds fans thought had finally healed. And then there was Carly Red, never one to stay silent. Sources say she dropped a bombshell accusation that sent shockwaves through the room, pointing fingers and daring anyone to deny what she claimed had been happening behind closed doors. Gasps echoed, tempers flared, and just like that, alliances cracked wide open. So what really happened in that room? Who's in, who's out, and who's about to expose secrets that could rewrite Love and Hip Hop history forever? Stay right here, because once you hear what went down next, you'll understand why fans can't stop talking, arguing, and choosing sides. The room felt colder than usual, like the air itself knew something ugly was about to surface. Cameras were already rolling, red lights blinking softly, when the cast filtered in one by one, each face carrying a different version of confidence, fear, and suspicion. Nobody knew why the call time had been moved up or why production insisted everyone be present, no excuses. Whispers bounced off the walls as assistants shut the doors, sealing them inside a moment that would soon spiral out of control. Fans would later be shocked to learn this was the exact moment the future of Love and Hip Hop began to crack. Mona Scott Young walked in last, calm but sharp, her presence instantly shifting the energy. She didn't smile, she didn't greet anyone, she just sat down, folded her hands, and looked around the table like a judge preparing to deliver a verdict. Yandy felt it immediately, a tightening in her chest she couldn't shake. She leaned over to whisper to Rashida, "This don't feel right." Rashida nodded, eyes darting between Mona and Kirk, who was unusually quiet, scrolling on his phone like he was avoiding eye contact with the universe. Mona finally spoke, her voice steady but loaded. She said this season wasn't about comfort, it was about truth. That word hung heavy in the room. Truth. Carly Red let out a short laugh, breaking the tension for half a second. Truth about who though? She asked, tilting her head, already defensive. Mona's eyes locked onto hers, then slowly scanned the rest of the cast. "Everybody," she said, "and some of y'all ain't ready." Emotions ran high almost instantly. Yandy shifted in her chair, crossing her arms. She had fought too hard, sacrificed too much, to feel blindsided like this. "If this is about loyalty," Yandy said, her voice rising, "then we need to be real about who's been loyal and who's been playing games behind the scenes." The room went silent. Kirk looked up from his phone. Rashida inhaled sharply, already sensing where this was headed. Mona didn't deny it. Instead, she dropped the first bomb. Contracts were being reconsidered. Storylines were being cut. Some veterans were being asked to step back, while new faces were being fast-tracked. Fans are shocked now, but in that moment, the cast was frozen. Carly slammed her hand on the table. "So after all these years, we're disposable?" she snapped. "Say that to my face." Mona met her energy without flinching. "This isn't personal," she said. "This is television." That word stung. Television. Yandy stood up. Her chair screeched against the floor. "Nah, this is personal," she said. "Because you're messing with families, reputations, real lives. You can't just shake the table and act like nothing's gonna fall." Kirk shifted uncomfortably as Rashida reached for his hand, her eyes glossy. The family was left divided right there, even before the real accusations started flying. Mona leaned back and sighed, as if she'd expected this reaction. "This season exposes things that have been hidden," she said. Marriages, friendships, business deals. At the word marriages, every head turned toward Rashida and Kirk. Rashida felt her stomach drop. "Why you looking at us?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay composed. Carly smirked. "Girl, you know why." That was all it took. Rashida stood up too. "Don't do that," she warned. "Don't bring old mess into new business." Carly laughed again, louder this time. "Old mess? Funny how old mess keeps coming back when people don't tell the whole truth." Kirk jumped in, his calm cracking. "Watch your mouth," he said. "You don't know what you talking about." Carly shot back instantly. "I know enough." Production assistants exchanged nervous looks as voices overlapped. Yandy tried to mediate, but her own frustration spilled over. "This is exactly what I'm talking about," she said. "We keep sacrificing our dignity for moments, and now we're being told we're replaceable." Mona raised her hand, demanding silence. "No one is irreplaceable," she said flatly. "That's the reality of this business." Those words echoed long after she said them. Rashida felt tears burn her eyes, not just from fear but from anger. She had rebuilt trust, rebuilt her marriage in front of millions, and now it felt like someone was threatening to tear it all down again for ratings. Kirk squeezed her hand, whispering that everything would be fine, but his voice lacked conviction. Fans would later dissect every second of this meeting, every glance, every pause, searching for clues about what secrets were about to be exposed. Carly leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs, suddenly calm. "If we're talking truth," she said slowly, "then let's talk about how some people been protected for years while others get thrown under the bus." Mona's eyebrow arched. "Go on," she challenged. Carly smiled, a dangerous smile. "Nah," she said, "I'll save it for the cameras." That was another shockwave. Yandy shook her head in disbelief. "See, this is messy," she said. "This is why fans are tired." Mona stood up, signaling the meeting was over. "Get ready," she said. "Because whether you like it or not, the story is moving forward." She walked out, leaving chaos behind her. As soon as the door closed, the room erupted. Rashida confronted Carly directly. "You always got something slick to say," she accused. "But you never say it straight." Carly stepped closer. "Maybe if people were straight, I wouldn't have to talk slick," she replied. Kirk moved between them, tension written all over his face. "This ain't the place," he warned. Yandy backed away, overwhelmed. She pulled out her phone, texting someone frantically, possibly her husband, possibly a lawyer. Her trust in the process was slipping fast. She felt betrayed not just by production, but by people she thought were allies. The idea that her role, her voice, could be minimized lit a fire in her chest. "I'm not going out quiet," she muttered under her breath. Off to the side, producers whispered urgently, already planning damage control. They knew they had captured something explosive, something that could redefine the season. But even they didn't anticipate how deep the fractures ran. Friendships that once looked unbreakable now felt fragile. Marriages were under a microscope again. And every cast member realized the same terrifying truth at the same time. This season wasn't about fun drama anymore. It was about survival. As they filed out of the room, no one spoke. The hallway felt endless, each step heavier than the last. Carly adjusted her hair, masking nerves with confidence. Rashida wiped her eyes, refusing to let anyone see her cry. Kirk stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Yandy paused at the door, taking one last look back, as if she could already see the storm that was coming. And somewhere behind the scenes, Mona watched the monitors, expression unreadable, knowing she had just lit a fuse that couldn't be put out. The fallout was only beginning, and what was said in that room would echo through every argument, every confession, every tear that followed. Fans may think they've seen it all, but this was just the first crack in a season that promised to shatter everything. The tension didn't disappear when they left the meeting room, it followed them like a shadow. The hallway cameras caught everything, every stiff smile, every whispered insult, every shaky breath. Rashida walked ahead of Kirk, needing space, her heels clicking faster than usual. Kirk called her name softly, but she didn't turn around. She felt exposed all over again, like the years of rebuilding meant nothing if one meeting could drag her past back into the spotlight. Fans are shocked now, but in that moment, she was just hurt. Yandy stepped outside, the night air hitting her face as she finally let out the breath she'd been holding. She leaned against the wall, phone pressed to her ear. "They're playing with us," she said quietly. "This ain't just TV, this is real life." On the other end, muffled reassurance tried to calm her, but Yandy's mind was already racing. She had kids, a marriage, a brand. She wasn't about to let anyone rewrite her narrative without a fight. Inside, Carly lingered, chatting with a producer, her laugh a little too loud. To anyone watching, she looked unbothered, but the truth was different. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her bag strap. She knew what she had hinted at wasn't small. She knew once she said it out loud, there was no taking it back. But part of her felt vindicated. If everything's coming out, she whispered to herself, then let it all burn. The next day, word spread fast. Group chats exploded. Blogs started buzzing with rumors of a massive cast shakeup. Fans flooded social media with theories, choosing sides before the season even began. Some accused Mona of betrayal. Others said it was time for change. Emotions ran high not just among the cast, but among the audience that had grown up watching them. The family was left divided on screen and off. Rashida sat at home later that night, staring at the ceiling while Kirk paced the room. "You gotta trust me," he kept saying. "Whatever they digging for, we can handle it." She finally snapped. "That's what you said last time," she shot back. Silence filled the room. Kirk froze. That single sentence carried years of pain. "I stayed," Rashida continued, her voice cracking. "I stayed and fixed this. Now they want to reopen wounds for entertainment?" Kirk lowered his head. He didn't have an answer. He knew his past made them vulnerable, and the thought of it being weaponized again terrified him. "I'll protect our family," he promised. Rashida shook her head. "I already protected it," she said. "Now I don't know who's protecting me." Meanwhile, Yandy met with close friends, venting her frustration. "They want drama at any cost," she said. "But I'm not some pawn." Her friends warned her to tread carefully. "You push back too hard, they might push you out," one said. Yandy scoffed. "Then let them," she replied. "I'd rather walk away with my integrity than stay quiet and bitter," but deep down, the thought of losing her platform scared her more than she wanted to admit. Carly, on the other hand, leaned into the chaos. She posted cryptic messages online, setting the internet on fire. Fans dissected every word, every emoji, convinced she was about to expose something huge. Her phone rang nonstop, cast members demanding to know what she meant. She ignored most of them, smiling to herself. "Let them sweat," she muttered. Production called emergency meetings, rewriting outlines, shifting story arcs. They knew they were sitting on a powder keg. One wrong move could alienate fans or fracture the cast beyond repair. But controversy meant views, and views meant power. Behind closed doors, decisions were made that would push certain confrontations forward, whether the cast was ready or not. Days later, the first group scene after the meeting was scheduled. Everyone showed up, but the energy was different. Forced smiles, fake hugs, tension so thick you could cut it. Rashida avoided Carly entirely. Yandy kept her distance from Mona, polite but cold. Kirk stayed close to Rashida, hyper-aware of every camera angle. When filming started, the producer's voice called for action, and instantly, masks went up. But cracks showed. Carly broke the ice with a pointed comment about truth coming out this season. Rashida's jaw tightened. Yandy rolled her eyes. Kirk clenched his fists under the table. Emotions ran high as the conversation quickly turned sharp. "We all heard what was said," Carly continued, looking around. "So let's not act brand new." Rashida finally spoke. "Say what you gotta say," she challenged. "Or stop poking." The room went quiet. Cameras zoomed in. Carly smiled. "Oh, I will," she said calmly. "Just not yet." That moment alone sent fans into a frenzy when clips leaked online. Speculation exploded. What was Carly holding back? Who was really at risk of being cut? Was Mona orchestrating a bigger plan than anyone realized? The suspense was unbearable, and everyone felt it. After filming, Yandy confronted Mona privately. "You could have warned us," she said. "You didn't have to blindside us." Mona listened, expression neutral. "This show survives on authenticity," she replied. "And authenticity isn't comfortable." Yandy shook her head. "There's a line," she said. "And you crossed it." Mona didn't argue. "We'll see," she said quietly. As the weeks went on, alliances shifted. People who once laughed together now whispered behind closed doors. Trust eroded fast. Rashida confided less in Kirk, afraid of being hurt again. Kirk grew defensive, feeling attacked from all sides. Carly thrived in the attention but felt the pressure building. Yandy debated her future daily, torn between standing her ground and walking away. And looming over all of it was the knowledge that something bigger was coming. Something no one could stop. The meeting had been just the spark. Now the fire was spreading, and every cast member could feel the heat creeping closer, threatening to consume everything they thought was secure. The pressure finally exploded the night the cast was forced into a surprise sit-down, one nobody had been warned about. The room was dim, candles lit for atmosphere, but the vibe was anything but calm. Yandy arrived first, her face set, shoulders squared like she was heading into battle. She already knew this wasn't going to be a friendly conversation. When Rashida walked in moments later, eyes guarded, Yandy stood up and hugged her tightly. Whatever happens, Yandy whispered, don't let them break you. Rashida nodded, swallowing hard. Kirk came in next, tense, scanning the room as if he expected an ambush. He sat beside Rashida, placing a hand on her knee, but she barely reacted. The distance between them felt louder than any argument. Then Carly walked in last, dressed like she was ready for a red carpet instead of a confrontation. Her confidence irritated everyone instantly. She smiled, waving casually. Hey y'all, she said, as if nothing was wrong. Once the cameras were rolling, there was no easing into it. The producer asked a single question that hit like a grenade. What secrets are still being protected? Silence followed. You could hear breathing, hear chairs creak. Emotions ran high as everyone waited for someone else to speak first. Carly leaned forward. I'll start, she said calmly. Rashida stiffened. Kirk muttered under his breath. Yandy closed her eyes briefly, bracing herself. I'm tired of being painted as messy when I'm just honest, Carly continued. Some of y'all built storylines off half-truths while real stuff got buried. Rashida snapped. Say names, she demanded. Don't talk in circles. Carly smiled again. Okay, she said, let's talk about how certain marriages get protected because they're fan favorites, while others get dragged. Kirk shot up. Leave my marriage out of your mouth, he barked. You don't live with us. Carly didn't flinch. No, she replied, but cameras do. That's when Rashida stood up. This is exactly why I'm tired, she said, voice shaking but strong. I showed my pain. I healed in front of the world. You don't get to reopen that for clout. Tears finally fell, and the room shifted. Even Carly hesitated for a moment, the weight of Rashida's emotion undeniable. Yandy jumped in. This is bigger than one marriage, she said. This is about respect, about how we're being pitted against each other. She turned toward the cameras. Fans are shocked because they think we're fighting for fun. We're fighting because our lives are on the line. Kirk tried to defend himself, explaining how hard he'd worked to rebuild trust, how painful it was to feel judged forever. But his words stumbled, and doubt crept in. Rashida looked at him, searching his face for reassurance she wasn't sure she still believed in. I just don't want to be embarrassed again, she whispered. The family was left divided right there, not just by outsiders but by fear. The argument escalated quickly. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew. Carly accused production of favoritism. Yandy accused the show of exploiting trauma. Kirk accused Carly of stirring chaos for attention. Rashida accused everyone of forgetting there were real people behind the drama. The producer eventually stepped in, calling for a break, but the damage was done. Backstage, emotions spilled over. Rashida locked herself in a bathroom, sobbing quietly. Yandy stood outside the door, trying to comfort her. You're not alone, Yandy said softly. Whatever happens, you got support. Rashida wiped her face. I don't know if I can do this anymore, she admitted. Every time I think I'm strong, they find a new way to test me. Kirk paced the hallway, frustrated and defensive. He felt attacked from every angle, trapped by his past. He called a close friend, venting about feelings set up. They want me to fail, he said. They want our marriage to be the headline. On the other end, the advice was blunt. If you got nothing to hide, stand firm, the friend said. Kirk wasn't sure that was enough anymore. Carly, meanwhile, sat calmly in her dressing room, scrolling through her phone as notifications poured in. Clips from the argument were already circulating. Fans were picking sides, praising her for speaking truth, or dragging her for doing too much. She read every comment, her confidence wavering for the first time. What if I went too far? She whispered. But then she shook her head. No, she said to herself. They need to hear it. The next morning, blogs dropped exclusive stories hinting that at least 2 original cast members were at risk of being demoted or cut. Speculation exploded. Yandy woke up to dozens of missed calls. Rashida avoided social media entirely. Kirk stayed silent. Carly posted another cryptic message, fueling the fire whether she meant to or not. Production leaned into the chaos, scheduling more confrontations, more group scenes. The cast felt trapped, aware that refusing to participate could cost them everything. Trust was gone. Paranoia settled in. Every conversation felt like a setup. Every smile felt fake. During a confessional, Yandy finally broke down. I came into this thinking we were family, she said through tears. Now it feels like we're enemies. Rashida echoed that sentiment in her own interview, admitting she was questioning whether fame was worth the constant pain. Kirk, defensive and exhausted, admitted he felt like he'd never escape his mistakes. Carly confessed she felt isolated, misunderstood, but unwilling to stay silent. And hovering over all of it was the knowledge that the biggest reveal hadn't even happened yet. Whatever Carly was holding back, whatever production was hinting at, was still waiting in the shadows. The tension kept building, each day heavier than the last, as the cast braced themselves for a moment they all knew was coming, but none of them were truly ready to face. The breaking point came during what was supposed to be a celebratory dinner, a night designed to calm nerves and remind everyone why they started this journey together. Long tables, soft music, cameras tucked into corners, producers promising this was about healing. But nobody believed that anymore. The moment everyone sat down, the tension was unmistakable, like a storm pretending to be a breeze. Rashida arrived holding herself together by sheer will. Kirk walked beside her, determined to appear united, but the silence between them spoke volumes. Yandy greeted everyone politely, but her smile never reached her eyes. Carly arrived late, making sure all eyes were on her, dressed like a statement she wasn't ready to explain yet. The dinner began awkwardly, small talk forced and fragile. Then one producer asked the question that shattered the illusion. "Do you feel this show has crossed a line?" The room froze. Yandy was the first to respond. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Because when real pain becomes a storyline, something's wrong." Emotions ran high instantly. Carly laughed softly. "But y'all been cashing checks off pain for years," she replied. "Why is it a problem now?" Rashida slammed her fork down. "Because we're tired," she said. "Tired of reliving trauma." Kirk nodded, backing her up. "There's a difference between sharing growth and being dragged backward." Carly leaned forward, eyes locked on Rashida. "Growth only works when the truth is complete," she said. "And some truth's been edited out." Rashida stood up abruptly. "Stop threatening me," she shouted. "If you got something to say, say it." The entire table went silent. Cameras zoomed in. Yandy whispered, "Here we go." Carly hesitated, her confidence flickering. For the first time, she looked unsure. "You want it now?" she asked quietly. Kirk stepped in. "Don't do this," he warned. "Not like this." But it was too late. The moment had arrived. Carly took a deep breath. "There's been conversations," she said slowly, choosing her words carefully. "Conversations about who stays, who goes, and who gets protected. And some of those conversations happened without y'all knowing." Yandy's eyes widened. "What conversations?" she demanded. Carly turned toward her. "Meetings. Off camera. Deals about storylines and edits." Rashida shook her head in disbelief. "You're lying," she said. "Why would they do that?" Carly's voice dropped. "Because controversy sells, but comfort doesn't." Kirk stood up, anger boiling over. "You accusing us of something?" he asked. "Because I've been transparent." Carly looked him dead in the eye. "Transparent on camera," she said. "But not behind closed doors." That was the final straw. Kirk slammed his chair back. "You don't know what you're talking about." The argument exploded. Voices overlapped. Producers rushed in, trying to regain control. Rashida broke down, tears streaming as she shouted, "I trusted this process." Yandy stood by her side, arms around her shoulders. "This is wrong," Yandy said firmly. "This is why fans are shocked. They don't see this side." The dinner ended in chaos. Plates untouched, tempers flaring, alliances crumbling in real time. Rashida left early, devastated. Kirk followed, furious and humiliated. Yandy stayed behind, confronting production directly. "You're tearing us apart," she said. "For what?" No one answered her. That night, everything changed. Rashida and Kirk argued at home like they hadn't in years. Old wounds reopened, trust questioned. "I can't go through this again," Rashida cried. Kirk insisted he'd done nothing wrong, but doubt hung in the air. The family was left divided, not just by accusations but by exhaustion. Yandy called her team the next morning. "Lawyers, managers, advisors. I need options," she said. "Because I won't be played." The idea of walking away became real for the first time. She thought about her kids, her legacy, her sanity. Staying suddenly felt more dangerous than leaving. Carly, alone in her apartment, stared at her reflection, finally feeling the weight of what she'd unleashed. Messages poured in from fans, some praising her bravery, others calling her a villain. She whispered to herself, "I just wanted fairness." But fairness had come at a cost. Production scrambled, emergency edits, crisis meetings, discussions about damage control. The shakeup was no longer a rumor, it was inevitable. Decisions were being finalized that would permanently alter the cast. Some names were being circled. Others crossed out. Loyalty meant nothing now, only impact. During a confessional days later, Rashida admitted she felt broken. "I thought I was stronger," she said quietly. "But this feels like starting over." Kirk, in his own interview, admitted fear. "I don't want my mistakes defining us forever." Yandy spoke with resolve. "I refuse to be silenced." And just when everyone thought the worst had already happened, a producer hinted at one more revelation still to come, something that would force everyone to choose sides publicly. The storm wasn't passing, it was growing, and the fallout from that dinner was only the beginning of a reckoning that would change everything they thought they knew. The fallout didn't wait for cameras, it seeped into every corner of their lives. Phones kept buzzing, inboxes filling with messages that felt more like threats than questions. Fans were shocked by how quickly sides formed, how fast narratives hardened. Yandy woke up one morning to headlines speculating she was negotiating an exit. She stared at the screen, jaw clenched, knowing silence only made the rumors louder. "They don't get to write my ending," she said aloud, pacing her living room. Rashida tried to escape it all by burying herself in work, but even her stores felt different now. Customers whispered, employees glanced at their phones, and every smile felt like pity. She caught her reflection in a mirror and barely recognized herself. "I survived worse," she whispered, steadying her breath. But when Kirk walked in later that night, tension rushed back like a wave. They tried to talk calmly, but every sentence felt loaded. "Did you know about any of this?" Rashida finally asked, eyes locked on his. Kirk froze for half a second too long. "Know about what?" he replied. That pause was enough. Rashida shook her head slowly. "That hesitation," she said quietly, "that's what scares me." Kirk insisted he'd been kept in the dark, that production moved however they wanted. But doubt had already taken root, and it didn't matter how many times he denied it. Yandy, meanwhile, decided to confront the chaos head-on. She agreed to film a one-on-one sit-down, but only on her terms. When the cameras rolled, her voice was calm but firm. "I feel manipulated," she said. "Not just as talent but as a human being." Emotions ran high as she spoke about sleepless nights, about protecting her family, about refusing to let drama overshadow her truth. Fans flooded the comments with support, but critics questioned her motives, accusing her of playing the victim. Carly watched the interview alone, arms crossed, feeling a mix of pride and resentment. "Now everybody wanna be honest," she muttered. But even she couldn't deny the fear creeping in. Whispers reached her too, that her role might be in jeopardy, that being the loudest voice sometimes came with consequences. She called a friend, admitting for the first time that she felt isolated. "I wanted fairness," she said. "Now I feel like the villain." Production called another emergency meeting, this time without cameras. Voices were raised, decisions debated. Someone suggested pausing filming. Someone else argued controversy was peaking. Numbers were pulled up, engagement charts highlighted. Reality collided with reality TV. In the end, a decision was made that would push everything over the edge. A public group confrontation, filmed live, no edits, no takebacks. When the cast found out, panic set in. Rashida nearly backed out, tears streaming as she told Kirk she couldn't do another ambush. Yandy hesitated too, weighing the risk. Carly felt her heart race, knowing this could be her moment or her downfall. But contracts were contracts, and backing out came with its own price. The night of the live filming, the energy was electric and terrifying. The audience buzzed, unaware of how raw things were behind the scenes. Backstage, no one spoke. Rashida sat quietly, hands shaking. Yandy closed her eyes, centering herself. Carly paced, rehearsing what she might say, what she might reveal. Once they were on stage, the host wasted no time. "The fans want answers," they said. "Are these friendships real, or just for TV?" Yandy answered first. "They were real," she said. "Until trust was broken." Rashida nodded silently. Carly scoffed. "Truth hurts," she said. "But fake peace hurts more." The conversation spiraled quickly. Accusations resurfaced. Production decisions were questioned openly. Rashida finally broke, voice cracking as she said, "I'm tired of being strong for everybody else." The family was left divided in front of millions, and there was no hiding it anymore. Kirk tried to defend their marriage, but his words were drowned out by the weight of public judgment. When it was over, no one felt victorious. Yandy left the stage knowing she'd drawn a line she couldn't erase. Rashida felt exposed and exhausted. Carly felt seen but strangely empty. Backstage, producers exchanged looks that said this had gone further than planned. And as the lights dimmed, one truth became undeniable. Whatever decisions were coming next would change lives, not just careers. The shakeup was no longer a rumor or a storyline. It was real, irreversible, and waiting to claim its next casualty. The morning after the live confrontation felt unreal, like the world had shifted slightly off its axis. Everyone woke up to consequences. Headlines screamed betrayal, courage, manipulation, meltdown. Fans were shocked by how raw it had been, how no one walked away clean. Yandy sat at her kitchen table staring at her phone, unread notifications stacked like bricks. She didn't feel relief. She felt heavy. She had said her truth, but truth didn't come with peace, it came with fallout. Rashida didn't leave her bed until noon. Curtains closed, phone face down, makeup still smeared from the night before. Kirk hovered nearby, unsure whether to speak or give space. When she finally sat up, her voice was flat. "I can't keep doing this," she said. Kirk's chest tightened. "Doing what?" he asked softly. She looked at him, eyes tired. "Surviving on camera," she replied. That sentence landed harder than any argument they'd had. Carly woke up energized and terrified at the same time. Her phone was exploding with messages from fans, haters, blogs, and people she hadn't heard from in years. Some called her brave, others called her reckless. She scrolled until her hands cramped, then tossed the phone aside. "I said what I said," she muttered, trying to convince herself she had no regrets. But deep down, she wondered if she'd finally crossed a line she couldn't step back over. Production moved fast. Meetings were called before noon. Executives debated optics, longevity, backlash. Someone suggested a pause in filming. Someone else argued the momentum was too big to stop now. Numbers didn't lie. Engagement was through the roof. Controversy had done exactly what it always did. But the cost was showing, and even they could feel it. Yandy was summoned first. She walked into the office calm, controlled, eyes sharp. She didn't sit down until invited. "I need to know where I stand," she said plainly. No small talk, no smiles, just business. The response was careful, rehearsed. Praise for her honesty, concern for her well-being, talk of restructuring, nothing concrete. Yandy nodded slowly. "I won't beg to stay," she said. "And I won't be edited into something I'm not." The room went quiet. Boundaries had been drawn. Rashida and Kirk were next. They arrived together but sat apart. Rashida spoke first. "My marriage is not a storyline," she said firmly. "It's my life." Kirk backed her up, his voice steady but strained. Production assured them nothing would be forced, but the words sounded hollow. Rashida left unconvinced, her trust fractured beyond repair. In the car, she stared out the window, whispering, "I gave them everything." Carly's meeting was the shortest. She came in defensive, arms crossed, chin lifted. She was praised for driving conversation, but warned about consequences. "You can't light fires and expect not to get burned," someone said. Carly smirked. "I've been burned," she replied. "I'm still standing." But as she walked out, her confidence wavered. She could feel the shift. She was no longer unpredictable chaos. She was a liability. Days passed, and silence became louder than any argument. Yandy stopped posting. Rashida stayed offline. Kirk avoided interviews. Carly posted selectively, carefully, trying to control the narrative. Fans filled the gaps with speculation. Rumors of exits, demotions, surprise returns. The family was left divided not just among cast, but among viewers who had once cheered together. Then the call came. Not a meeting, not a negotiation, a decision. Yandy listened without interrupting, her face unreadable. When the call ended, she exhaled slowly. She hadn't been fired. She hadn't been saved. She'd been offered a choice. Stay under new terms, or walk away with dignity. She smiled sadly. "So this is what it comes to," she whispered. Rashida got her call later that night. She cried quietly while Kirk held her, not saying a word. The offer felt like an insult disguised as opportunity. More exposure, more honesty, more pain. She looked at Kirk and shook her head. "I don't need to prove anything anymore," she said. "I already lived it." Kirk nodded, swallowing guilt he'd carried for years. Carly's call came last. Hers was blunt, uncertain, conditional. She was told her future depended on how the next few weeks played out. She laughed when the call ended, but it was hollow. "They still don't get it," she said aloud. "I'm not their villain. I'm their mirror. But even mirrors get shattered." As filming slowed, the cast crossed paths less. When they did, the energy was different. Polite, distant, like strangers who shared too many memories. Yandy ran into Rashida once in a parking lot. They hugged tightly, neither speaking. Words felt unnecessary. They both knew something had ended, even if no one had announced it yet. Carly watched from afar, feeling the weight of isolation. For the first time, she questioned whether speaking up had cost her more than silence ever would have. But then she remembered years of being dismissed, edited, laughed at. "I'd do it again," she told herself. "I had to." Behind the scenes, final decisions were locked in. Contracts rewritten. Storylines scrapped. Announcements scheduled. The massive cast shakeup was real now, not rumor, not threat. A new era was coming, built on the ashes of the old one. And everyone involved felt the loss, even those who claimed victory. The last time they were all in the same room, there were no cameras. No producers prompting reactions. Just quiet acknowledgement. Yandy broke the silence. Whatever happens, she said, I hope we remember we were more than this show. Rashida nodded, eyes glassy. Kirk murmured agreement. Carly looked down, then up, her voice softer than anyone expected. I never wanted us to be enemies, she said. I just wanted truth. No one argued, because for once, there was nothing left to fight about. The damage had been done. The lines had been drawn. And as they walked out separately, each carrying their own version of the truth, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a season. It was an ending. And whatever came next would never feel the same again. The announcement didn't come with sirens or dramatic music, just a quiet email that landed in inboxes like a final verdict. Subject lines were neutral, almost polite, but the meaning underneath was unmistakable. The shakeup was official. Some contracts would not be renewed. Some roles would be reduced. Some stories would end without closure. Fans would be shocked when it finally went public, but inside, the cast had already felt it coming for weeks. Yandy read the email twice, then a third time. Her hands didn't shake. She felt strangely calm, like she'd already grieved this moment before it arrived. She closed her laptop and sat back, letting the silence settle. Walking away wasn't defeat. Staying under conditions that erased her voice would have been. She picked up her phone and texted one line to a close friend. I chose me, then she turned it off. Rashida read hers and broke down, not loudly, not dramatically, but in the quiet way that comes from being tired all the way through. Kirk wrapped his arms around her, holding her like he should have done more often years ago. I'm sorry, he whispered, not just for the email, but for everything that made it hurt this much. Rashida wiped her tears and nodded. I know, she said. Now we move different. Carly's message was different. Hers didn't close a door, it cracked it open just enough to be cruel. Conditional. Trial-based. Dependent on optics and reactions. She laughed when she read it, a sharp sound that surprised even her. They still want chaos, she said aloud. Just controlled chaos. For the first time, she wasn't sure she wanted to give it to them. When the news finally leaked, the internet exploded. Blogs rushed to be first. Fans argued non-stop. Some praised the shakeup as overdue. Others called it disrespectful. Emotions ran high everywhere. Comment sections became battlefields. Think pieces popped up overnight. The family was left divided, not just on screen, but across the entire fanbase that had grown with them for years. Yandy watched from a distance, choosing silence while everyone else filled it for her. She declined interviews, ignored rumors, let people speculate. When she finally spoke, it was brief and on her own platform. Growth isn't always loud, she said. Sometimes it's walking away. Fans flooded her page with support, thanking her for choosing dignity over drama. Rashida followed a similar path. She stepped back from the spotlight, focusing on business, on healing, on protecting her peace. When asked about the show, she kept it simple. I'm grateful, she said. And I'm done. Kirk stood beside her, quieter than ever, aware that his role now was to support, not defend. The family was still healing, but this time without cameras forcing the pace. Carly struggled the most with the aftermath. Attention had always been her armor, and now it felt heavier than ever. She filmed scenes that felt hollow, conversations that lacked the spark they once had. Fans noticed. Critics pounced. She looks tired, they said. She looks lonely, and for once, they weren't wrong. Speaking truth had cost her allies, and silence had cost her peace. Behind the scenes, production pushed forward, introducing new faces, new conflicts, new energy. But something was missing. Even executives felt it, though few would admit it out loud. History doesn't disappear cleanly, it leaves echoes. And every time an old clip resurfaced, every time fans reminisced, those echoes got louder. Months later, the cast crossed paths at an industry event. No cameras, no mics, just coincidence. Yandy and Rashida hugged like sisters who'd survived the same war. Kirk nodded respectfully. Carly hesitated, then stepped forward. I never meant to hurt y'all, she said quietly. Yandy met her eyes. I know, she replied. But intention don't erase impact. Carly nodded, accepting it. They didn't stay long. Small talk felt unnecessary. Closure doesn't always come with long speeches. Sometimes it's just understanding. As they parted ways, there was no bitterness left, only the weight of shared history. Fans would debate this era for years. Who was right? Who was wrong? Who should have stayed? Who should have gone? But the truth lived somewhere in between. This wasn't just a cast shake-up. It was a reckoning. A reminder that reality TV may thrive on chaos, but real people pay the price. And as a new season moved forward without familiar faces, one thing became clear. Something essential had ended, not with a scream, not with a fight, but with a series of quiet choices made behind closed doors. Choices about self-worth, about boundaries, about walking away when staying costs too much. The shock wasn't just that the cast changed. The shock was that they chose themselves. And in a world built on spectacle, that might have been the most dramatic move of all. Even after the dust settled, the aftershocks refused to fade. Weeks passed, but the silence felt louder than any reunion fight ever had. Fans kept digging, replaying old scenes, stitching together theories, convinced there had to be more. Emotions ran high because for the first time, there was no dramatic episode to wrap it all up, no explosive finale to tell them how to feel. Just unanswered questions hanging in the air. Yandy focused on rebuilding away from the noise. Meetings felt different now, lighter. She noticed how her shoulders no longer stayed tense all day, how sleep came easier. Still, late at night, she'd catch herself remembering moments from the show, laughing, crying, fighting for something she once believed in. It wasn't all bad, she admitted to herself. But it was time. Rashida found peace in routine. Opening her stores, checking inventory, talking with customers who saw her not as a storyline, but as a woman who endured. Kirk stayed close, more present than ever, determined not to repeat old mistakes. They talked more honestly than they had in years, without cameras shaping the conversation. Healing was slow, but it was real. Carly watched everything from the sidelines, still technically attached, but emotionally detached. Filming felt mechanical now. She delivered lines, sparked tension when expected, but the fire that once fueled her was dimmer. Sometimes she wondered if the truth she fought so hard to expose had cost her the very thing she wanted most, belonging. But then she'd remember the years of swallowing her voice, and the doubt would harden into resolve. Fans continued to argue, defend, and accuse, turning the shake-up into legend. Podcasts dissected every move. Comment sections stayed divided. Some said the show lost its soul. Others said it finally evolved. But one thing was undeniable. The era that defined so many lives had closed its chapter. And even without cameras capturing it, the real story continued quietly, shaped not by producers or edits, but by choices made in private. Choices to walk away, to stay, to forgive, to protect peace. Long after the headlines faded, those choices mattered more than any rating ever could. Time moved on, but the conversations never really stopped. Even when the headlines faded, the impact lingered in subtle ways. Fans would still stop Yandy in public, thanking her for choosing herself. Some hugged her like they knew her personally. Others asked if she'd ever return. She always answered the same way, gently but firmly. I'm exactly where I need to be. Rashida felt that shift too. People approached her with respect, not curiosity. No probing questions. No expectations of pain. Just admiration. She realized how heavy the cameras had been, how much of her strength had been consumed by proving she could survive. Now, survival was quiet, steady, and hers alone. Kirk noticed the difference. He listened more, spoke less. He understood that love now meant protection, not performance. Carly existed in a strange in-between. Recognized everywhere, understood almost nowhere. Some fans still cheered her honesty. Others blamed her for the collapse of something they loved. She learned to live with both. Late one night, scrolling through old clips, she paused on a moment where they were all laughing, before the tension, before the fractures. I miss that, she whispered. Not the fame, not the chaos, just the feeling of belonging. The show moved forward, louder but emptier. New faces tried to fill old spaces. New drama sparked, but it hit differently. Fans watched, compared, debated. Something intangible was gone, and no amount of spectacle could replace it. People realized what they'd lost only after it disappeared. And somewhere in that realization was the real ending. Not a cliffhanger, not a fight, but the understanding that growth sometimes looks like walking away, even when everyone's watching. Especially when everyone's watching. The distance between them slowly became permanent, not out of anger, but acceptance. There were no more surprise calls, no emergency meetings, no last-minute negotiations. The chaos that once dictated their schedules was gone, replaced by choices they finally controlled. Fans were shocked by how quietly everything ended, expecting explosions instead of exhaustion. Yandy found herself rediscovering pieces of her identity that had been overshadowed by constant conflict. She laughed more freely, spoke without measuring every word, and for the first time in years, didn't feel like she was performing strength. When people asked if she missed it, she paused before answering. I miss who we were before it turned into a battlefield, she said honestly. Not what it became. Rashida's healing showed in small moments. Morning coffee without anxiety. Long conversations without defensiveness. Kirk noticed it too, realizing how much pressure the show had placed on their marriage. We should have chosen us sooner, he admitted one night. Rashida nodded. We did when it mattered, she replied. The family was left divided by the experience, but stronger in its absence. Carly continued navigating her complicated position, still present but no longer central. She watched new conflicts unfold and felt detached, like a ghost of a former era. Sometimes she wondered if speaking up had changed anything at all. But then she'd receive messages from fans saying her honesty gave them courage, and that reminded her why she did it. Truth doesn't always fix things, but silence definitely breaks them. The public never got a final explanation. No reunion special tied with a bow. No official statement spelling out what really happened. Just fragments, interviews, and memories. And maybe that was fitting. Real life doesn't offer clean endings. What remained was impact. On careers. On families. On friendships that survived in altered forms. The shakeup didn't just change a cast. It changed how everyone involved understood power, loyalty, and self-worth. Emotions ran high for months, but eventually, calm replaced chaos. And in that calm, they learned something reality TV never teaches. Sometimes the most dramatic choice isn't staying and fighting. It's leaving quietly, choosing peace, and letting the noise fade without you. And now that you've heard every shocking twist, every emotional breakdown, every betrayal and boundary crossed, the real question is this: what side are you on? Because this wasn't just another season of drama, this was a full-blown reckoning that changed everything fans thought they knew. Emotions ran high, lines were crossed, and once loyal bonds were tested in ways that may never fully heal. And even now, with decisions made and paths chosen, the story still feels unfinished. Fans are shocked because there are still so many unanswered questions. Did Yandy make the right call by choosing herself over the spotlight, or did the show lose one of its strongest voices the moment she walked away? Was Rashida protecting her peace, or did the pressure finally become too heavy to carry? Did Kirk truly learn from the past, or will old mistakes always follow him no matter how much growth happens off camera? And Carly Red, was she the villain everyone painted her to be, or the only one brave enough to say what others were afraid to admit? The family was left divided, not just on screen, but in the hearts of fans everywhere. Some believe the shakeup was overdue, that change was necessary for the franchise to survive. Others feel something irreplaceable was lost, that authenticity walked out the door when real emotions were pushed too far. And that's what makes this story so powerful. There is no single truth, only perspectives shaped by pain, loyalty, and survival. This is where you come in. Because this conversation doesn't end here. It lives in the comments, in the debates, in the late-night discussions where fans replay scenes and argue over what really went wrong. Do you think production crossed the line, or was this always the cost of reality TV fame? Who do you believe was treated unfairly, and who should have handled things differently? If you were in their shoes, would you have stayed and fought, or walked away in silence? Make sure you drop your thoughts below, because we want to hear every opinion. No filters, no fake peace, just honesty. If this story had you hooked from start to finish, don't forget to like this video, because it lets us know you want more deep dives into the drama nobody else is breaking down like this. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next shocking update, because trust us, this saga isn't as over as it looks. And remember, reality TV may thrive on chaos, but it's the real emotions behind the scenes that tell the truest story. Stay locked in, stay opinionated, and stay ready, because if this shakeup taught us anything, it's that one phone call, one meeting, or one truth can change everything overnight.